The train arrived with a tired sigh, its brakes hissing like a weary beast. Daniel boarded, grateful for the warmth after the biting winter air. He sank into a seat, the familiar plastic comforting against his back. It had been a long day, and the rhythmic rocking of the train promised sleep. He closed his eyes, the day's anxieties fading into the background hum of the engine. Daniel jolted awake. He wasn't sure how long he'd been asleep, but something felt wrong. The carriage was strangely silent. He glanced at his watch, the luminous hands indicating it was well past midnight. Unease coiled in his stomach. His stop had surely passed. He looked around, his heart beginning to pound. The train was supposed to be packed at this hour, yet he was alone, almost alone. At the far end of the carriage, shrouded in shadow, sat two figures. One was hunched over, its face obscured by a wide-brimmed hat. The other sat rigidly upright, its face a pale blur in the dim light. Daniel tried to catch their eyes, but they remained fixed on some unseen point beyond the train window. He cleared his throat, attempting a casual greeting. "Did I miss my stop?" he asked, his voice echoing unnaturally loud in the silence. The figures didn't react. Daniel tried again, louder this time. "Excuse me, do either of you know this route?" Silence. He rose from his seat, his unease escalating to full-blown alarm. As he drew closer, he noticed something peculiar. Their stillness wasn't the relaxed repose of sleeping passengers. It was the absolute stillness of statues. And then he saw their hands. Or rather, what should have been their hands. They were skeletal, the bones bleached white, the fingers curled into claws. Panic seized Daniel. He stumbled back, knocking into the carriage wall. His eyes darted around, desperate for an escape. The windows, usually clear, were now opaque, reflecting nothing but his own terrified face. The train rattled onward, its rhythmic clatter now a menacing drumbeat. He was trapped. He raced towards the front of the train, each carriage mirroring the last empty, silent, shrouded in unnatural shadow. The only light came from flickering bulbs overhead, casting long, distorted shadows that danced and writhed with the movement of the train. The air grew colder, the metallic tang of ozone stinging his nostrils. He could feel it now, a presence, cold and oppressive, pressing down on him, urging him towards the front of the train. As he reached the driver's cabin, he heard it, a low murmur, like the rustling of leaves, but laced with a mournful quality that sent shivers down his spine. The whispers grew louder as he approached the cabin door, resolving into words, fragmented and chilling. Never arrived. Lost souls. Bound forever. He pressed his ear against the cold metal of the door. The engine, which had been a steady drone, now pulsed with a deep, rhythmic throbbing, like a heartbeat. He knew, with a certainty that chilled him to the bone, that he wouldn't find a driver on the other side of that door. This train wasn't driven by anything human. He was trapped on a phantom train, hurtling through the abyss, the whispers of lost souls his only company. The horrifying realization struck him. He was going to become one of them. Desperation lent him a sudden, reckless courage. He threw his weight against the cabin door, but it wouldn't budge. Frantically, he searched for another way out. The windows, still reflecting nothing but his own terror, offered no escape. He was out of options. Or was he? A memory flickered at the edge of his mind, a childhood fear, a whispered superstition. Ghosts couldn't cross running water, but how could he possibly make use of that on a speeding train? His eyes fell on the emergency brake, a bright red lever beside the door. A desperate plan formed in his mind. If he could somehow derail the train near water, maybe, just maybe, he could break free from this spectral prison. It was a long shot, a gamble with death, but the alternative was unthinkable. With a surge of adrenaline, he yanked the brake lever down. The train lurched violently, the screech of metal against metal deafening. The lights flickered and died, plunging him into absolute darkness. He was thrown against the wall, the impact knocking the air from his lungs. He lay there dazed, the only sound the agonizing groan of the derailing train. Then, silence. He woke to the pale light of dawn. He was lying on the bank of a river, the wrecked train a twisted metal carcass beside him. The rising sun glinted off the water, sending ripples of light dancing across its surface. He had escaped, or had he? As he rose to his feet, stiff and sore, he noticed something strange. His reflection in the water wasn't quite right. It wavered, insubstantial, a pale imitation of the man he had been. And from its depths he could have sworn he heard a faint, mournful whisper, "Welcome aboard."